Lamps full understandings. Our latter-day revelations produced by Richard Ferreira, a Christadelphian brother. Joel 2 verse 28. And it shall come to pass afterward, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. Please like, subscribe, and share widely.
Conception of John the Baptist. November 18th, 8 BCE. This video is part of a series. The previous installment is titled Gabriel Visits Zacharias, November 2nd, 8 BCE. Recap. We learned that on November 2nd, 8 BCE, the angel Gabriel visited Zacharias on his second day of service that week. It was a Sunday evening and the meeting took place at sunset when the incense was burned. Luke 1 verse 9. According to the custom of the priest's office, his lot was to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord. And there appeared unto him an angel of the Lord standing on the right side of the altar of incense. We found a solar eclipse on this same day about 2 hours after sunset. Upon reading this verse in Luke 1 verse 21. And the people waited for Zacharias, and marveled that he tarried so long in the temple. The sign of the solar eclipse, we see, would relate to when Gabriel departed, and bounds the length of time Gabriel talked with Zacharias, which created the long wait time for the people. Zacharias unable to speak. Zacharias had an apparent moment of doubt for what the angel was telling him, and so there was a consequence imposed upon him designed to remove all doubt. It is interesting, even the listener of this video will continue to have doubt until they get to the very end. Similarly, Zacharias retained his inability to speak until the season of his wife's pregnancy was complete. Luke 1 verse 20. And, behold, thou shalt be dumb, and not able to speak, until the day that these things shall be performed, because thou believest not my words, which shall be fulfilled in their season. Just when Zacharias has something to say to the people, he is rendered mute. Because Zacharias is unable to speak, Elizabeth has available to herself the idea that she will keep the pregnancy secret for 5 months. Before we explore why the 5 months of Elizabeth in hiding, we first need to review the time frame between Zacharias completing his service through to the conception of his son, John the Baptist. Breakdown of Zacharias' days from Gabriel's visit to the conception of John. Luke 1 verse 23. And it came to pass, as soon as the days of his ministration were accomplished, he departed to his own house. We are given, Zacharias must first finish or accomplish his service time. We suspect that he will begin his travel the following Sunday morning. That is 6 days accomplished from the Sunday evening that Gabriel meets him to the next Sunday morning after the Sabbath, when he is permitted to travel under the law. Where did Zacharias live? Luke 1 verse 39. And Mary arose in those days, and went into the hill country with haste, into a city of Judah. When Mary went to visit Elizabeth, she went to the hill country in Judea. We don't know exactly where Zacharias lived, but realistically the travel, on foot, would be no more than 2 days. These travel days 7 and 8 are Sunday 9th and Monday the 10th. We are up to a total of about 8 days since Gabriel's visit. Zacharias has now arrived back home, November 10th. As we check our calendar, we find there is a partial lunar eclipse blood moon that occurs on November 18th. By the time this day is completed, it will be 8 days since Zacharias has been home. During those days Zacharias will have had conjugal visits with Elizabeth for 7 days to morning of 18th. We suggest that the successful conjugation occurred on the morning of the 18th day, partial lunar eclipse, blood moon, November 18th. Summarizing days to conception. There are 16 days between Gabriel's visit and the blood moon that would represent a successful conjugation. That 16 days represents 6 days for Zacharias to finish out his course, 2 days of travel and 7 days to accomplish a successful conjugation, and 1 day for the natural conception process. Breakdown of time from conjugation to conception of John the Baptist. There are 2 time frame events that are required for the conception of a child. There is the time for the male contribution to travel, and the female egg contribution also needs travel time. They meet and finally the egg is fertilized. When we see the blood moon, this being an unclean time, we suspect this to be the male contribution time being successful. Next we see the full moon remains until the moment it begins to start to wane. We can follow the time it takes for the full moon to go from the blood moon phase to the point that it begins to cease from being a full moon. We see that the blood moon, which had occurred about 5:30 a.m., is not an unusual time for conjugation activity. The full moon continues right up to midnight, about 18 hours later, where it meets a star cluster called Messier 35. This star cluster is located at the left foot of the Castor figure of the Gemini twins. In this position, the moon is about to start waning, just as it comes into conjunction with a star cluster. It is interesting that inside the egg after it's fertilized, the cells are dividing rapidly, and they cluster, and so here we have a star cluster, about the size of the moon, which also resembles an egg with a clustering of new cells forming inside. We came to realize that the conception, which is a woman's egg being fertilized, is now multiplying with cells, is located at a star cluster called M35, which has many stars in it, of which 7 are prominent. I would suggest that John the Baptist is conceived at this point, November 18th, 8 BCE. Elizabeth hides herself. How can we substantiate from the scriptures that the November 18th is correct? It is the story related to Elizabeth hiding her pregnancy that gives us the evidence we need. Next lesson. In our next video titled, Elizabeth Hides Herself, April 14th, 8 BCE, we will discover why she hides herself and what is the sign that marks the event of her pregnancy revealing.
Lap's Full Understanding's YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, and share widely.